Dearly redheaded, we are choosing consciousness today to get through this thing called grief. Interesting word, grief. It means love, which makes for a mighty good joke. But I'm here to tell you, there's nothing else. Just joy. And if the big picture tends to bring you down, go crazy once your life goes. Woo!
Love when you go on tangents. So don't, because that's what I end up doing, and it ends up being very helpful to you. So don't worry about,
You're good to go.
I'm good to go. Okay, well, I was just saying to Lucia that when she goes what apparently may look like a tangent, it's just very helpful to the person telling their story to go on those tangents. Don't worry about what we as your listeners get out of it. Take your journey. So,
I love that. Yeah. I love that because I think that clarifies for me too what I'm doing as well. Is that like it's okay, like go on your journey, and like the people listening will go along it with you, right? Like that's our role, that's our job, that's our sacred, like we get to do that as listeners. We get to do it.
Yeah, and I that's the way the brain works. You know, that's the hardest part about being a writer. And also having a dissociative brain, because I forget. So by being able to go down my own selected rabbit holes, it's healing. So
yeah.
So talk about, I would imagine, childhood and when you started to notice things. Start where you want to start. What do you want to say?
Well, I can start by giving some generalizations of like I come from a immigrant family. Both of my parents are immigrants from Italy, both coming at separate times. My mother was 1955. She was only 6, so she's grown up in this country. But my dad did not immigrate until the 60s, and he was 21 at the time. And I'll say that I grew up in a very large extended family, as you can imagine. And I think, like that whole thing about the way Italians herd together and how they're all up in each other's business and how they have Sunday dinner and all that. I mean, all of that is true. I come from a very large extended family here in this small town in Ohio. My dad ended up becoming a very successful businessman here. He and his brother opened up a catering business, which led to being able to buy properties. The whole family, his side of the family is they're restaurant owners. They're very successful. And so, I want to say in a lot of ways, and I don't know why I feel the need to sugarcoat this, and I don't feel that I'm sugarcoating it because I believe a lot of things are true at the same time. In a lot of ways, I had an ideal childhood. I was given everything I needed. I had a mother who was very attentive to me and loving. My dad worked a lot and provided for us. I got to grow up around a lot of cousins and, have that experience of a family being this like anchor and feeling privileged in that, feeling proud of that. It was a very proud thing that we Italians like sticking together and making fun of the Americans and like all this. My family loves to is very proud of not being too American. That being said, yeah, I grew up with a father who he lost his mother when he was 11 months old to cancer. She died of breast cancer. He was then raised by a stepmother. My grandfather in Italy ended up marrying 3 months afterwards because he couldn't take care of the children that he had by himself, and that was just what you did, I guess. Anyway, it was raised really poor, extremely poor. They had nothing, and then they got an opportunity to come to the United States through my uncle. My oldest uncle ended up, he was a self-made businessman, and he moved to the United States and created a business here. And so he called everyone else over, and they all immigrated together. So they all went on that journey together. All right, I'm just going to take a breath here. So my dad is, I think he has a lot of difficulty with feeling some sense of abandonment in losing his mother. I don't think that he felt truly that he was loved. I think he has a lot of issues with attachment. But all of that, and I see it not only in him, but in his siblings, because of the emotional neglect that I think they all incurred, narcissism grew out of that, because I think it was a protective layer for them to be able to disprove being nothing. Either that, or it was there all along, and it just it was expanded through having gone through trauma. I don't know, but I will say my dad's family is extremely narcissistic, very competitive. Everyone's children are tools to utilize to compare and contrast their worth. Some people in the family are considered to be like sort of like a hierarchy, like they're the royalty of the family. Others of us are at the bottom, where we're sort of we're the scapegoats, we're the last, we're the ones that get made fun of. We're the ones that help them to feel more superior. I will say I've grown up feeling laughed at all my life, seen as quiet and not having much worth in that way, just sort of a patient, quiet kid who really didn't bother anybody, but like just was, kind of didn't have much to contribute or to give. And Joanne, I am being sort of vague right now, and I apologize if this is confusing in any way.
No, I one thing that I want to say before I forget is, after you and I are done today, I'm going to be talking about Dr. Alan Shore's work, and specific to your father's age and losing his mother, that scientifically is when the brain from 11 months, meaning his specific age, but from the last trimester to age 2+ is when attachment, whether it's going to be avoidant or anxious or secure, that's when that happens. So scientifically, you're right on about your dad. And then as far as being vague, I'm feeling similar to when I'm talking, and you want more specific examples from me. Is there any specific example you want to offer? I get it because I've been through it, but is there any specific example you want to give that you remember from childhood? And where are you in the sibling? Where are you?
Yeah, I just have, so it's just my brother and I for us. My dad only had 2 kids, but there are
Cousins.
7. There are 7 in all children from his family. So
Yeah,
there's a lot. Yeah,
I got it.
a lot
I
of
got
children.
it. Is there any? If you want to stay vague, I have no issue with vague. Is there any in particular something that stands out?
There is one thing that stands out, and this actually didn't have to do with my father. This was my aunt's husband, who is from the same town. It's just this whole mess of people that all from this small little town in Italy. Anyway, he was an extremely abusive man. I mean, my aunt she was really abused. She was also abusive herself, though. Like, she ended up not she's externalizing it. Anyway, when I was a little girl, and my aunt's house, she was like the matriarch of the family. We would all go to this house like all the time. All the family would gather there, and sometimes I would go to that house, and I remember an adult, and it's hard for me to remember exactly what was said to me, but something being said to me where I felt so incredibly sad, I would just start crying. And I cannot remember exactly what it was, but I knew, like, there were things that just, I can still feel it in my own body. Like, I just felt so hurt, and like, so I would just bawl and cry. And this man, my uncle, would start making crying noises, like really loud, like, whoa, whoa, like, and he would get really close to me and do it. And I remember starting to feel rage too as a child, that happening. And I would like scream, and like everybody in that room was just like laughing. They were just laughing.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. It's just like, there's like all these little clips of things, right, that come up, but it's like this humiliation.
Do you get visuals or just the feelings more?
It's both. It's both. I can remember that room and the people in it. I remember like the dark atmosphere of it. It was always a very dark house, dark room, but mostly in my body. Yeah, just this really sense of like hurt. Like I didn't understand. Like I think that's something that always comes to me as a kid. I was like, I don't understand. Like, why is this happening? Why? Yeah, it just didn't make sense to me.
You called her a matriarch, but she was essentially a powerless matriarch, correct? Because of her own abuse?
Essentially, but she didn't show up that way. She was a very gruff woman. She was really like, and she was a gossiper, and she was like at the head of like I think the way that all the siblings together would come around and just really I kind of beat up on each other. Like they would all talk about each other.
Yeah.
They would all like, it was just awful. I would sit there, but it became so normalized to me. It's like, well, I guess this is what people do. They talk about each other, but it's like, that's your brother. Like, what are you saying? Like, how do you go back and then face your brother after you just sat there for 3 hours talking about him, and like saying that he's your family and you love him. Like, this makes no sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the indoctrination. Were there were there more males than females in that kid group?
Yes, definitely more males. I was one of only maybe a handful of girls. Yeah, and like 20, 25 cousins,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we learned through them what our place was as cousins to each other and who mattered and who didn't, Yeah, I remember just a lot of, I remember being one time just like slapped in the face in front of everyone. And I think being slapped in the face is one of the most humiliating things that can happen to you, right? Something about being slapped in the face that, I don't know, that action just to me says from the person who did it, like, I absolutely just think you are nothing. It's just such a form of disrespect, I think. And I can't imagine doing it to my children. There's just something really, really like, I think that we don't understand how psychologically abusive humiliation is too. And that's what I would say, like at the core of a lot of what I have experienced here is humiliation. Yeah.
I'm full of questions, but I'm going to take a quick peek at where our notes were in doing this. Via the story you just told, your comment in your email to me was wanting to frame it through the stories that help illustrate what I came to understand later as covert and overt abuse. You've made me realize it's very similar, and I try to make analogies sometimes that may not hit the target, but similarly to, and it's a great analogy, I hope it flies, but similar to people who have sexual and physical abuse never getting to the psychological. The analogy is people who have overt abuse have covert abuse and never get to the covert abuse. I mean, it's a perfect analogy. So how did you determine, and was it not until recently? Because I'm just, how'd you connect the dots?
Yeah, I will say it was not until recently, or at least not until into my 30s, and I'm in my 40s now. And it didn't come to me until I met my husband, because it was my husband that started pointing things out to me. And he would just say, like, this is very strange. This doesn't seem right or feel right when we're around them. I don't like the way your dad talks to your mom. I don't feel comfortable. He started bringing up a lot of things, and even how he felt bad about himself when he was around them. He would say that. And I was like, what? I don't understand. I didn't understand for a long time. And I thought that my husband actually I thought maybe he was looking down on them. Right. Because that was always their story too. Like, well, other people look down on us, like, because we're immigrants and we, but we've made something of ourselves, but people still look down on us. And on some level, I thought that because I was trained to believe that. And it was finally, we had went to stay with them during the pandemic. I was so in 2020, I was just starting to recover from OCD. And like, I was really getting to a point where I was seeing the light again, because I had just been in like hell. And I was starting to feel better, but then COVID hit and I just wanted to go home. I wanted to go back to my family. I wanted us to go there and spend some time there. And this is how like kind of fucked up all of this is, because I always saw them as a safe place, and they'll take care of me, and I'll be able to just feel like people are taking care of me, because I needed a break, And so we drove the whole way. We ended up staying with them for like 3 months. I mean, it was way too long. And it was in that time period, the 3 months that we stayed with them during COVID, where everything started to come to light to me. Everything started to come to light. And I realized, I started to see the behavior that was happening. I started to, I'll give you, here's a story.
Okay.
I guess like a story just popped up in my mind, so I'm just going to go with it and tell it.
Go. This is improv.
My daughter was 3 at that time, so it was really little. And my parents had this like adult tricycle that my mom had bought, and she was riding for her own use. But I ended up riding it one day, and I had put my daughter in the back of it. Like there was a little basket in the back of this tricycle, and she was small enough to fit in it. And so I would take her on rides around the neighborhood in it. But one day she stood up in it, and this is one of my worst moments as a parent, because first of all, I shouldn't have had her in there. It was dangerous. I had no helmet on her. Anyway, she stood up in it while it was moving, and she fell out of it. And she just screamed. And it's like when the crying doesn't stop, it's more than that, right? And she had ended up breaking her arm, her elbow. I was just in a panic. And I remember my dad coming to me and like, looking at, like, he didn't do anything to help or solve it. He looked at me like, what the fuck have you done? What have you done? It was just like this like odd thing of like, what are you doing right now? Are you going to help me? Like my kid is really like, I'm panicking. And I remember calling my husband and saying, something is wrong. Please come right now to the house. And he came right over. We took our daughter to the emergency room. But when we came back from the emergency room, here's my dad at the kitchen table sobbing, just sobbing. And as parents, we had just been through, like we felt terrible. And we had to just make space for him to feel bad. And that, it was something had happened to him. And everybody had to make the space for him to be upset about this. And that his arm being broken. I'm sorry, I actually don't want to say my daughter's name. Her arm being broken.
I'll take it
was, we had done something had been done to him. That was the feeling of it, right? And we had to put aside the fact that we had just our child had just been through something traumatic. Like not even like there was no focus even on like, how are you doing, baby? Like, what, like, how can I help you to feel better as a grandparent or whatever? Nothing. It was just all about him. And I mean, it's one of the things that really stands out to me of like, I feel like that's a good example of like the inability to, it's, I don't even know that it's true that narcissists don't have empathy. I just think that like, it's such an obsession around, obsessive compulsive thing around themselves that they, I don't know. Yeah. It's like almost like the fear of letting go of their own importance to be able to give it to someone else.
I do you want me to comment?
Sure.
I mean, I believe, we all have the potential to be narcissists. And it's the difference of looking at ourselves and doing the work. And the more harm you do in an unconscious state, the harder it is to come back from. And he was a grown man through several generations of never choosing to look at himself. So it's self-loathing rubbing up against self-love. And in that moment, if you don't do the work, you choose self. Do you remember what he was upset about?
It was really just about how sad he was that this had happened, and it was about how this had happened, but it's also that it was almost like a making sure that it was not his fault, and that it felt like it was like, come see how sad I am and what you've done to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that so often within my own family now that I'm attuned to it. I had just an analogy, me, I'm big on them. I had a sibling stand up to another sibling in front of me as a child, and I remember it. And the sibling that had been doing the bullying, the other one stood up, and then she was the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my analogy for your situation. He had no ability to be there, so it goes back to self, because the self is so fucked up. And it's become, in my humble opinion, now that we have a desensitized, narcissistic culture, we've all, without healing, now it ventures more towards sociopathy.
Yeah.
And it's,
I think that's
especially having gone through the generations and not learned the lessons. It's not like what we're talking about is rocket science. It's just psychology is very, very antiquated. That's why what we're doing is so important. I love that you started to look at this in your 30s and then in your 40s. It's just, that's, you gotta look at yourself. The sooner the better. And we're not taught to do that.
No, I certainly wasn't taught to look at myself. I was taught to look at one person.
Eye off the prize. Yeah. And then when we do, and again, I'm squeezing my own hand really tight. When we start to look at ourselves, I mean, when you're raised by wolves, and you can very easily become a wolf.
It's so true. It's so true. I have worried about that myself sometimes. When all of this started coming out and I started realizing what was happening, and like that this was a narcissistic culture and family, and that I had grown up in. I remember telling my therapist, and like maybe I'm one of them. Maybe And so I've done a lot of self-reflection on that too, because I know for myself, honestly, Joanne, I don't know if I'm ever going to buck the current of, part of me will always believe that I'm nothing. While there's another part, lots of other parts of me that do know better, but there's always going to be that part. And I don't ever want to be someone in any way. And so with my children, I'm so scared of that. I'm so careful. I never want to be that moment where that kid started to believe that, you know.
Yeah, I've examined that, why my self-esteem and self-worth weren't damaged more. I've always had this strange self-confidence and got enough validation, and also I still believe that's also tied to being autistic. I didn't know any better. You know, and it is really funny, and I hope that I can elaborate that on stage when I talk to people, because it you know, I remember, and this is another one of my analogies, when my son was born and he was about 4 years old, and his dad was giving him a hard time, and he looked up at my ex and he said, "Are you trying to intimidate me? It's not going to work." And I thought, hot damn, like, there it is. Yeah, I mean, my heart bleeds for those with the esteem and the worth issues. My biggest problem has always been me, because of them. Not in a blame way, but if you grow up that way, you know, you can become your biggest enemy.
Yeah, you really can. I think I've realized how much is untrue, you know, in my journey. I've realized it's like, wow, these are just a group of people, and there's lots of people out there.
Well, let's lead with that. Let him stop, and we're going to lead with you saying, you know, this is untrue.
Thank you for listening and supporting Natural Born Redhead. If you follow the bouncing balls, please like and subscribe. If you know someone interested in sparing others grief and inciting joy, message me on Facebook or reach out via my website, Natural Born Redhead. J-Ma.